Many thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. So based off of the average age of viewer of this channel, I think this week's video is really going to resonate with a lot of you. I know it definitely does for me, and I'll tell you a short story that I believe I've mentioned quite a few times before. But when I was in my early 20s, I was helping somebody move. I ended up hurting my back, and I didn't get it properly checked out for many years, well over a decade. I was young and I was dumb and thought I was invincible. And I just figured if I, drank enough water, rubbed a little bit of dirt on it, it would just go away. And it didn't. And it basically has resulted in something that I call Premature Back Fatigue, or PBF. I don't believe that's a medical term. I think it's just something I just made up. But it explains, or it's exactly what I feel. I don't have extreme back pain per se, but my back just wears out a lot. And in long story short, I'm very cognizant of how much weight I'm carrying to a specific location. I'm very aware of how long it's going to take me walking to get to a certain location. And I'm also very aware of the type of image that I'm trying to capture. So I'm always thinking about these things when I am packing up my gear. So having two different setups, my main setup and then a lightweight kit, is something that I've always been working towards. And I feel like my lightweight setup has never been as good as it is right now. Now I do want to mention this real quick, because I know I'm going to completely forget here in just a moment, but I had posted a photo of myself and my dog Baxter in the van the other day on the YouTube community tab, and I got a lot of private messages and questions about the van and whether or not I was ever going to make a video about the van. And there's been a lot of new subscribers to the channel over the last year, but I made an entire series of how I built this van out. It was a complete shell. There was no windows, there was nothing in this van, and I built it all from the ground up by myself on weekends and in between trips over the last couple of years. And I documented it in a 4-part series, which I'll link above here if anybody would like to watch that process. It was pretty cool. I'm glad I made the videos, because I often like to go back and see where the van started and where it's at right now. And I think it makes me feel pretty proud, honestly, to see how far it has come. And if anyone out there is interested in kind of an updated van video, I have done a lot to the van since the last video, and it is more dialed in now with different mods, and I think it's at a point that I know it's at a point now that I've never been happier with the way it looks. So if you are interested in an updated van video, let me know in the comment section below. If there's enough interest in it, I will definitely do that. So over the years, as my PBF continues to get worse and worse, my back seems to kind of fatigue even quicker now than it did 10 years ago. And I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty certain that's going to continue to evolve, and that issue is going to continue to exacerbate and get worse and worse and worse over time. So I have been very cognizant of how much I'm bringing when I'm on location. And I've spent quite a few years trying to figure out exactly what's the best setup for me. And one of the most difficult aspects of it is a tripod. It seems like there's a huge gap between, your heavy duty, robust, solid tripod versus travel tripods. And it seems like most travel tripods out there, they're either A, tiny and flimsy, you could sneeze and they would blow over, or B, they're sturdy and the ball head attached to it is not removable, and it's very kludgy, clunky. It's just not good. I haven't really had or found a really solid setup. I've gone through quite a few different travel tripods, and the ironic thing about it, my favorite one now is the very first tripod I had ever purchased, but I was constantly thinking that there was something better out there, and I had it all the time. And it's this, hold on, it's this right here. Now, I should have checked this out before I made this video, because I'm pretty certain Benro still makes at least an updated version of this, because this is maybe 10 years old now. But I know this is called the Benro Lay Flat Tripod, and as you can see, it lays flat, which is super cool, because it'll lay flush against the side of your backpack. And it kind of opens up a little bit different than most tripods do, kind of like this, which is different. But it doesn't extend all the way up to my eyes. I'm 6'2". But it gets pretty close, and it's lightweight, and it's short, and it's compact, and it's sturdy. It's not gonna blow over when you just kind of walk by it at a brisk pace. That's really good. Now, one of the best aspects of a smaller I keep wanting to call it a travel setup, and I don't think that's a very fair description, because travel setup, like all my camera gear is a travel setup. I travel with all of my camera gear, so I really refer to it more as a lightweight camera kit. But one of the best things about a lightweight camera kit, outside of the obvious things, it's lightweight, but the thing that really excites me the most besides the lightweight is the fact that it's small. So when you have small camera bodies and small lenses, that means you don't need to have something huge to carry it in. So like when I go on really big trips, like I'm going on a trip to Bali in a couple weeks, that's going to be a 2.5, almost a 3-week long trip. I'm going to have to bring my full-size camera bag, which is, depending on which one I bring, you're like 50 liters, 60 liters, and that means you're loading it up with a ton of stuff. That's going to be a heavy, heavy setup. But when I'm going somewhere that A, doesn't require me to bring everything, or B, is a very, very long hike and I'm not going to bring everything and I want to bring the my lightweight travel kit, this is the bag that I bring. And this is a 30-liter Shimoda, I think it's called the Action X series. They come in like 30, 50, 60, 80 liters. I think I'm not 100% certain, but the 30-liter footprint is the best camera bag size, in my opinion, for a lighter setup. 30 liters seems to be absolutely fantastic, but it gives you enough room to put everything that you need in there, but it also gives you enough room to put, outer layers, jackets, a little bit of food, some water, things like that. So for me, it is a perfect size. I use this one, and I also use Shimoda's newer version. I think it's called not newer version, it's a newer bag, the Urban Explorer series, which is also a 30-liter. And I think they make this bag in a 25-liter now, which I would be interested in checking that out as well. But yeah, it's one of the best parts of having a smaller setup is you don't need to have this massive bag. I used to have this kind of FOMO. I was always afraid that if I didn't bring something, that would be the thing that I need. And I still kind of think about that all the time. But I'm at a point now to where I very rarely bring everything, both setups, because I've got my lightweight travel setup that I'm talking about in this video. I also have my main setup, which is the GFX100S. That's the main camera I use for stills, medium format with medium format lenses. So I have 2 different setups, a big setup for stills and then a lightweight travel kit. So this is the bag that I use for that, and it's absolutely fantastic. So before I show you the camera I use for my lightweight setup, which if you're a long-time viewer of the channel, you probably know exactly which camera this is by now, but I'm going to show you the lenses the lens that I use for this. I'm going to wait to the last minute to switch cameras because I'm actually filming with my my lightweight kit right now. Because when I switch this to the GFX100S, which is my other camera, that is not a video camera, and I'm afraid that it's going to do a very poor job at recording this. Probably a little bit of a focus hunting back and forth, but nevertheless, I wanted to just make that known real quick. But let me show you exactly which lenses I use for this setup. So this right here is, take the lens off, this is my telephoto lens for my lightweight setup. This is the Fuji 55-200 on the XF mount. And this gives me an effective reach of 305 millimeters full frame equivalent, which is huge. And as you can see, it's a very small lens. It doesn't have an internal zoom, which is somewhat unfortunate. I'm not a big fan of kind of telescoping zooms. But even when it's fully extended, it is not that big at all. And then when it's not extended, it's tiny, lightweight, and it's a beautiful lens. Is it the sharpest lens in the world? No, it's not. But for a lightweight setup, it absolutely does the trick. Some of my favorite photos I've ever captured is with this lens. And the best part about it, this lens is less than $1,000. Actually, I believe I paid $600 for this lens, which is, $600 is expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, as far as lenses are concerned, that is on the less expensive side. So this is my longer lens solution for my lightweight setup, and it's absolutely fantastic. So now I'm going to switch the video camera over to the GFX100S and show you the remaining bit of this lightweight kit. All right, maybe if I get really close and kind of zoom into my face, it won't try and start hunting for things in the background. But the other lens that I use, now I only have 2 lenses for my lightweight setup, and it works perfectly fine. So I have the 55-200, which gives me an effective reach of 305 millimeters for a full frame. And then this right here is my wide angle solution. This is the 10-24, which basically is a full frame equivalent of a 16, I think it's 15-36 millimeters, or 16-35 basically. But as you can see, tiny, tiny lens, super small lens, lightweight. It's everything about it is small. It's a version 2 weather sealed lens, absolutely beautiful lens. This is actually a very, very good lens, sharp corner to corner, but most of all, it is tiny, very, very small, weighs next to nothing. So these 2 lenses together take up practically no room at all in my bag. Very, very small setup. And it's absolutely fantastic because I don't need a big bag. And that's what's so great about having these kind of lightweight setups. Now, I've tried sling bags before. I should have mentioned this earlier when I was talking about the bag that I use. You know, a lot of people, when they use a lightweight setup, they want to use a sling bag, or they opt for a sling bag. And I've tried sling bags, I've tried messenger style bags, but having I guess the weight distributed on one side of my body actually makes my back kind of wear out even faster. So out of all of the messenger style bags and sling bags I have tried, which is I think 5 or 6 different bags over the years, I've never used any of them for the long haul ever. So I always use just a standard backpack, and I just reduce the size of that backpack to the 30-liter footprint. But by using these 2 lenses and the camera body that I'm about to show you, it takes up next to hardly any room. So I still have plenty of space for all the little gadgets, a camera strap, SD card holders, things like that, lens wipes, and jackets, rain cover maybe, just things like that inside the pack. But these 2 lenses, now there is a gap between these 2 lenses. I basically have between 16 millimeters and 305 millimeters full frame equivalent, but there's about a 50 millimeter gap there in that mid-range zone. I am thinking about picking up something to fill that gap, so I will have a 3 lens setup for my lightweight setup, but I just haven't landed on exactly which lens that will be just yet. All right, this is the last clip that will be filmed on the GFX 100S. Hopefully the last video clip wasn't too bad, but the camera that I have paired with these 2 lenses for my lightweight setup that I went with is this right here. This is the Fujifilm X-T5, which is by far the best hybrid camera I've ever used in my life. It's 40 megapixels. The autofocus on here is incredible. I film every single bit of video content for this channel, except for this clip right here, with this camera, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's small, it looks super cool, and even when you pair it with these lenses, let me put the bigger of the 2 lenses on here, just so you can see how compact this setup is. This right here is the biggest this setup gets. This is with 300 millimeters of reach on the X-T5. Plenty of reach. Actually, I shouldn't say plenty of reach. There's never enough reach, but it's a whole lot in a relatively small package, which is absolutely fantastic. So the Fujifilm X-T5, that is the camera body that I pair with my lightweight setup. I've been using the XT series for years now. I started with the XT3, the XT4, now the XT5, and I'll probably continue to upgrade whenever the XT6 comes out. I'm a huge fan of the XT series. I think Fujifilm does an incredible job with those. But what's really cool about this exact setup here with this lens paired with the XT5 is that the GFX 100S, it's been my biggest complaint with that camera system, is it does not have a good long lens solution. My telephoto lens is a 100 to 200, which in my opinion is barely even a telephoto. It's kind of a short telephoto lens. And that 100 to 200 millimeters on a medium format camera doesn't even, it's like 100 and maybe 80 millimeters full frame equivalent. So it's not even 200 millimeters, which I think even 200 millimeters is kind of short. I really want to be 300 plus. So whenever I do need to capture something extremely far away, or there's a scene that I really want to compress, this is a system that I use. Even when I'm not bringing just the travel setup or the lightweight setup, I'll pull this system out right here to capture those. So I think that using the APS-C kind of benefit, the fact that you get a lot more reach on many lenses, is absolutely huge. It's a very powerful thing to kind of take advantage of, if you will. So I opted to go for an APS-C camera for my lightweight setup and 2 lens solution, which I think I'm going to be adding a 3rd one, but even all of that. And this right here is the entire solution right here. It's very small, doesn't take up much room at all, and I could not be happier with the way that it has treated me so far. So one thing I failed to mention earlier is a lot of times when I'm using my lightweight setup, I don't use a tripod. I really only use a tripod in lower light scenarios, and I usually will opt for this right here. This is the best camera strap I've ever used. I've tried different kind of thinner camera straps, but they feel like they kind of dig into my shoulders a little bit. But this one right here by Peak Design is super wide. I'm not sure exactly what the name of it is. It doesn't say it. Oh, Summit Edition? I don't know if that's the color or the style, but I just like it. It's padded on the actual where it touches your shoulder, the shoulder surface, and it's much wider. So a lot of times when I'm using a lightweight setup, I like to go handheld. But if I'm shooting, blue hour, sunrise, sunset, I do have the lay flat tripod that I will lean on. But I like to use this right here. But yeah, that's the setup that I use whenever I'm trying to go a little bit lighter. But I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. A lot of times that I'm really paying attention as to how far I'm going to have to walk. So maybe I will want to bring the GFX 100S for its extreme high resolution, 102 megapixels. But if I'm having to hike into the woods, like I was just in the Smokies a few days ago, that was almost a 10-mile hike round trip. I would not want to bring that setup and my 3 medium format lenses for that hike. Some people that might not be a problem, but for me, that would wear me out pretty good. It would be I don't even know what I'm trying to say. That would be tough for me towards the end of that hike. So in that scenario, that's when I opt for a much lighter setup to kind of alleviate how far I'm going to have to carry that gear. And I think it's very important to plan ahead, especially when you get to be a little bit older. So anywho, I hope you did find some value in this week's video. I know I don't do a whole lot of gear stuff on the channel, but I do like to kind of shake things up a little bit, so I do hope that you appreciate that. There's a car going by. Hello. Just a weird guy talking to himself in his van. But I hope you enjoyed this week's video. And before I do wrap things up, I just want to say a big thanks to the sponsor of this week's video, which is Squarespace, who I use for all of my website and e-commerce needs. Squarespace provides a robust and beautiful online platform to develop your website. You can showcase your photography using Squarespace's new Blueprint design system to help guide you through the options to building your online presence from the ground up. You can even display your photography using Squarespace's flexible website design templates and customize the layout in order to make it your own. And with Squarespace's online store feature, you'll have access to all the tools you need to start selling your physical goods, digital content, or service products online with ease. So if you're looking to start a new website or possibly upgrade your current website, check out squarespace.com/Mark Denney for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. Not even sure exactly why I got my arm up here. It's kind of a uncomfortable position, I suppose. But nevertheless, really do appreciate you carving out a little bit of time to spend it with me here today. And if you did enjoy this week's video, as always, if you could, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And oh yeah, I know I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. If you are interested in possibly seeing an updated van video, it's been well over a year since I've done a video on it. I have done a ton of different modifications to it. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I feel like my van is more dialed in now than it has ever been. I'd be more than happy to make another van video. I just wasn't sure exactly how much this kind of stuff would resonate with a photography channel. But if there's enough people in the comments that are interested in that, I will make that happen for you all. So if you have any questions about the lightweight setup that I use, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll get back in touch with you as soon as humanly possible. And as always, I really do appreciate you carving out a little bit of time to spend it with me here today, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.